Water striders are able to walk on top of water due to a combination of several factors. Water striders use the high surface tension of water and long, hydrophobic legs to help them stay above water. Gerridae species use this surface tension to their advantage through their highly adapted legs and distributed weight. The legs of a water strider are long and slender, allowing the weight of the water strider body to be distributed over a large surface area. The legs are strong, but have flexibility that allows the water striders to keep their weight evenly distributed and flow with the water movement. Hydrophuge hairs line the body surface of the water strider. There are several thousand hairs per square millimeter, providing the water strider with a hydrophuge body that prevents wetting from waves, rain, or spray, which could inhibit their ability to keep their entire body above the water surface if the water stuck and weighed down the body. Fourth, this position of keeping the majority of the body above the water surface is called an epipleiostonic position, which is a defining characteristic of water striders. If the body of the water strider were to accidentally become submerged, for instance by a large wave, the tiny hairs would trap air. Tiny air bubbles throughout the body act as buoyancy to bring the water strider to the surface again, while also providing air bubbles to breathe from underwater. 4. Despite their success in overcoming submergence in water, however, water striders are not as competent in oil, and experimental oil spills have suggested that oil spilled in freshwater systems can drive water strider immobility and death. 15. The tiny hairs on the legs provide both a hydrophobic surface as well as a larger surface area to spread their weight over the water. The middle legs used for rowing have particularly well-developed fringe hairs on the tibia and tarsus to help increase movement through the ability to thrust. 4. The hind pair of legs are used for steering. 16. When the rowing stroke begins, the middle tarsi of Gerrids. Gerridae genera inhabiting marine and brackish habitats. 4. Genus of family Gerridae. No. Of. Marine species. Brackish neritic oceanic. Asclepios 4 yes yes no holobates group 139 yes yes no holobates group 27 no no yes stenobates 1 no yes no rheumatometroids 1 yes. Are quickly pressed down and backwards to create a circular surface wave in which the crest can be used to propel a forward thrust. 4. The semicircular wave created is essential to the ability of the water strider to move rapidly since it acts as a counteracting force to push against. As a result, water striders often move at 1 meter per second or faster. 17. Gerrids generally lay their eggs on submerged rocks or vegetation using a gelatinous substance as a glue. Gravid females carry between 2 and 20 eggs. The eggs are creamy white or translucent, but become bright orange. 17. Gerrids go through the egg stage, 5 instar stages of nymphal forms, and then the adult stage. Instar durations of water striders are highly correlated throughout the larval period. 18. This means that individuals tend to develop at the same rate through each instar stage. Each nymphal stage lasts 7 to 10 days and the water strider molts, shedding its old cuticle through a Y-shaped suture dorsal to the head and thorax. 17. Nymphs are very similar to adults in behavior and diet, but are smaller, 1 mm long, paler, and lack differentiation in tarsal and genital segments. 17. It takes approximately 60 to 70 days for a water strider to reach adulthood, though this development rate has been found highly correlated to the water temperature the eggs are in. 16. Habitat. Gerridae generally inhabit surfaces of calm waters. The majority of water striders inhabit freshwater areas, with the exception of Asclepios, holobates, stenobates and a few other genera, which inhabit marine waters. 19. The marine species are generally coastal, but a few holobates live offshore, oceanic, and are the only insects of this habitat. 19. Gerridae prefer an environment abundant with insects or zooplankton and one that contains several rocks or plants to oviposit eggs on. It has been studied by prevalence of water striders in varying environments, that water striders most prefer waters around 25 degrees Celsius, 77 degrees Fahrenheit. 17. Any life cycle. Water temperature lower than 22 degrees Celsius, 72 degrees Fahrenheit, is unfavorable. 17. This is likely due to the fact that development rates of young are temperature-dependent. 5. The cooler the surrounding waters, the slower the development of the young is. Prominent genera Gerridae are present in Europe, the former USSR, Canada, US, South Africa, South America, Australia, China and Malaysia. 5. None have been yet identified in New Zealand waters. 17. Diet. A group of water striders devouring a honeybee. Gerrids are aquatic predators and feed on invertebrates, mainly spiders and insects, that fall onto the water surface. 16. Water striders are attracted to this food source by ripples produced by the struggling prey. The water strider uses its front legs as sensors for the vibrations produced by the ripples in the water. The water strider punctures the prey item's body with its proboscis, injects salivary enzymes that break down the prey's internal structures, and then sucks out the resulting fluid. Gerrids prefer living prey, though they are indiscriminate feeders when it comes to terrestrial insect type. 20. Holobates, which are found on open sea, feed off floating insects, zooplankton, and occasionally resort to cannibalism of their own nymphs. 16. Cannibalism is frequent and helps control population sizes and restrict conflicting territories. During the non-mating season when gerrids live in cooperative groups, and cannibalism rates are lower, water striders will openly share large kills with others around them. Some gerrids are collectors, feeding off sediment or deposit surface. Predators. Gerrids, or water striders, are preyed upon largely by birds and some fish. Petrels, terns, and some marine fish prey on holobates. 16. Fish do not appear to be the main predators of water striders, but will eat them in cases of starvation. Scent gland secretions from the thorax are responsible for repelling fish from eating them. 20. Gerrids are largely hunted by birds of a wide range of species dependent on habitat. Some water striders are hunted by frogs, but they are not their main food source. 20. Water striders are also sometimes hunted by each other. Water strider cannibalism involves mainly hunting nymphs for mating territory and sometimes for food. 16. Parasites. Several endoparasites have been found in gerrids. Trypanosomatid flagellates, nematodes, and parasitic Hymenoptera all act as endoparasites. 20. Water mite larvae act as ectoparasites of water striders. 20. Dispersal. Sudden increases in salt concentration in the water of gerrid habitats can trigger migration of water striders. Water striders will move to areas of lower salt concentration, resulting in the mix of genes within brackish and freshwater bodies. 21. Nymphal population density also affects the dispersal of water striders. The higher density of water striders in the nymphal stage results in a higher percentage of Brachypterous adults developing flight muscles. 22. These flight muscles allow for the water striders to fly to neighboring bodies of water and mate, resulting in the spread of genes. This spread and mixing of genes can be beneficial due to a heterozygotic advantage. Generally, water striders will try to disperse in such a way to lower the density of gerrids in one area or pool of water. Most do this by flight, but those that lack wings or wing muscles will rely on the current of their water body or flooding. Eggs in hollow baits are often laid on floating ocean debris and thus spread across the ocean by this drifting matter. 17. Mating behavior. Water striders using surface tension when mating. Sex discrimination in some Gerridae species is determined through communication of ripple frequency produced on the water surface. 16. Males predominantly produce these ripples in the water. There are three main frequencies found in ripple communication. 25 Hz is a repel signal, 10 Hz is a threat signal, and 3 Hz is a courtship signal. 16. An approaching gerrid will first give out a repel signal to let the other water strider know they are in its area. If the other gerrid does not return the repel signal, then the bug knows it is a female and will switch to the courtship signal. A receptive female will lower her abdomen and allow the male to mount her and mate. A non-receptive female will raise her abdomen and emit a repel signal. 16. Males that are allowed to mate stay attached to the same female for the entire reproductive season. This is to ensure that the female's young belong to the mounting male and thus guarantee the spread of his genes. Females oviposit, or lay their eggs, by submerging and attaching the eggs to stable surfaces such as plants or stones. 16. Some water strider species will lay the eggs at the water edge if the body of water is calm enough. The amount of eggs laid depends on the amount of food available to the mother during the reproductive season. The availability of food and dominance among other gerrids in the area both play crucial roles in the amount of food obtained and thus, resulting fecundity. 23. Water striders will reproduce all year long in tropical regions where it remains warm, but only during the warm months in seasonal habitats. Gerrids that live in environments with winters will overwinter in the adult stage. This is due to the large energy cost which would need to be spent to maintain their body temperature at functional levels. These water striders have been found in leaf litter or under stationary shelters such as logs and rocks during the winter in seasonal areas. 14. This reproductive diapause is a result of shortening day lengths during larval development and seasonal variation in lipid levels. 14. Shorter day length signals the water strider of the coming temperature drops, also acting as a physical signal the body uses to store lipids throughout the body as food sources. Water striders use these lipids to metabolize during their hibernation. The length of the hibernation depends when the environment warms and the days become longer again. Social behavior. Kin discrimination is rare in Gerridae, only really being seen in hollow baits. Without hunger playing a role, several studies have shown that neither Aquarius remiges nor Limnoporus disortis parents preferentially cannibalize on non-kin. 24. Those two species are highly prevalent in American waters. These species do not show familial tendencies, leaving their young to forage on their own. Females cannibalize more on young than males do and, in particular, on first instar nymphs. 24. Young must disperse as soon as their wings are fully developed to avoid cannibalism and other territorial conflicts since neither parents nor siblings can identify members genetically related to themselves. Gerridae are territorial insects and make this known by their vibration patterns. Both female and male adult Gerridae hold separate territories, though usually the male territories are larger than the female. 14. During the mating season, gerrids will emit warning vibrations through the water and insects portal. Defend both their territory and the female in it. Even though Gerridae are very conspicuous, making their presence known through repel signals, they often live in large groups. 20. These large groups usually form during the non-mating season since there is less need to compete. Instead of competing to reproduce, water striders can work together to obtain nutrition and shelter outside of the mating season. Water striders will attempt to disperse when these groups become too dense. They do so by flying away or cannibalizing. In the video game Super Mario 64, in the level Wet Dry World, there are enemies named Skeeter that are based on water striders and their movement. The name comes from water skeeter, an alternative name for water striders. 25. In the 2002 film The Tuxedo, water striders are genetically modified by bioterrorists to have bacteria that can spread from person to person, causing severe dehydration and instant death. 20. Pentatomidae. The Pentatomidae are a superfamily of insects in the suborder Heteroptera of the order Hemiptera. As hemipterans, they possess a common arrangement of sucking mouthparts. 1. The roughly 7,000 species under Pentatomidae are divided into 21 families, 16 extant and 5 extinct. 2. 3. Among these are the stink bugs and shield bugs, jewel bugs, giant shield bugs, and burrower bugs. 4. Description. Anatomy of the dorsal aspect of a shield bug. A. Head. B. Thorax. C. Abdomen. 1. Claws. 2. Tarsus. 3. Tibia. 4. Femur. 8. Compound eye. 9. Antenna. 10. Clypeus. 23. Laterodergites connexivum. 25. Pronotum. 26. Scutellum. 27. Clavus. 28. Corium. 29. Embolium. 30. Hemelitral membrane. The Pentatomidae are characterized by a well-developed scutellum, the hardened extension of the thorax over the abdomen. It can be triangular to semi-elliptical in shape. 3. The antennae typically have 5 segments. The tarsi usually have 2 or 3 segments. 5. Shield bugs have glands that produce a foul-smelling liquid, which is used defensively to deter potential predators. Nymphs have glands on the dorsal surface of the abdomen, dorsal abdominal scent glands. These are often present in adults as well, but adults also develop a pair of glands on the metathorax, third segment of the thorax, these being the metathoracic scent glands. 6. 7. The nymphs in adults have distinctive piercing mouthparts, with mandibles and maxillae modified to form a piercing stylet, sheathed within a modified labium. The stylet is used to suck sap from plants, or in some cases to suck blood from other animals, such as in the predatory subfamily Aesopinae. 8. Pentatomidae are mostly phytophagous. 9. Although some, the Aesopinae are predatory stink bugs, or zoophagous. 10. They can become significant pests, e.g. the brown marmorated stink bug, causing economic damage to certain crops. These families are classified under Pentatomidae. Pentatomidae. Pentatomidae is a family of insects belonging to the order Hemiptera, generally called shield bugs or stink bugs. Pentatomidae is the largest family in the superfamily Pentatomidae, and contains around 900 genera and over 4,700 species. 1. 2. As hemipterans, the pentatomids have piercing sucking mouthparts, and most are phytophagous, including several species which are severe pests on agricultural crops. However, some species, particularly in the subfamily Aesopinae, are predatory and may be considered beneficial. Etymology. Red-shouldered stink bug. The name, Pentatomidae, is from the Greek paint meaning 5, and tomos meaning section, and refers to the 5 segments of their antennae. 1. Pentatomids are generally called shield bugs in British English, or stink bugs in American English. However, the term shield bugs are also applied broadly to include several related families, e.g. Acanthosomatidae, Scutellaridae, and Cydnidae, or specifically only to refer to species in the family Acanthosomatidae. 1, 3, 4, 5, 6. The term shield bug refers to the generalized body shape of adult bugs in these families, which resembles a heraldic shield when viewed from above. The American name, stink bug, is specific to the Pentatomidae, and refers to their ability to release a pungent defensive spray when threatened, disturbed, or crushed. The composition of this spray may vary between species, and even by sex or age. 7. But generally includes aldehydes and alkanes. Descriptions of the smells vary widely, and include oily, dusty, woody and earthy, and like coriander. 8. 9. In some species, the liquid contains cyanide compounds and a rancid almond scent, used to protect themselves and discourage predators. 8. The term, stink bug, may also be a vernacular for unrelated insects such as pinnacate beetles, in the genus Eleodes. 10. All pentatomids have 5 segmented antennae, and Pentatomidae. Pentatomidae is a family of insects belonging to the order Hemiptera, generally called shield bugs or stink bugs. Pentatomidae is the largest family in the superfamily Pentatomidae, and contains around 900 genera and over 4,700 species. 1. 2. As hemipterans, the pentatomids have piercing sucking mouthparts, and most are phytophagous, including several species which are severe pests on agricultural crops. However, some species, particularly in the subfamily Aesopinae, are predatory and may be considered beneficial. Etymology. Red-shouldered stink bug. The name, Pentatomidae, is from the Greek paint meaning 5, and tomos meaning section, and refers to the 5 segments of their antennae. 1. Pentatomids are generally called shield bugs in British English, or stink bugs in American English. However, the term shield bugs are also applied broadly to include several related families, e.g. Acanthosomatidae, Scutellaridae, and Cydnidae, or specifically only to refer to species in the family Acanthosomatidae. 1, 3, 4, 5, 6. The term shield bug refers to the generalized body shape of adult bugs in these families, which resembles a heraldic shield when viewed from above. The American name, stink bug, is specific to the Pentatomidae, and refers to their ability to release a pungent defensive spray when threatened, disturbed, or crushed. The composition of this spray may vary between species, and even by sex or age. 7. But generally includes aldehydes and alkanes. Descriptions of the smells vary widely, and include oily, dusty, woody and earthy, and like coriander. 8. 9. In some species, the liquid contains cyanide compounds and a rancid almond scent, used to protect themselves and discourage predators. 8. The term, stink bug, may also be a vernacular for unrelated insects such as pinnacate beetles, in the genus Eleodes. 10. All pentatomids have 5 segmented antennae, and 3 tarsal segments on each foot. They generally have a large triangular scutellum in the center of the back. The body shape of adult pentatomids is generally shield-like, when viewed from above, but this varies between species, and is not true for the immature nymphal stages. The forewings of stink bugs are called hemelytra, with the basal half thickened while the apex is membranous. At rest, the wings are laid across the back of the insect, with the membranous wingtips overlapping. The hindwings are entirely membranous. Anatomy of the dorsal aspect of a shield bug. A. Head. B. Thorax. C. Abdomen. 1. Claws. 2. Tarsus. 3. Tibia. 4. Femur. 8. Compound eye. 9. Antenna. 10. Clypeus. 23. Later Otorgites connexivum. 25. Pronotum. 26. Scutellum. 27. Clavus. 28. Corium. 29. Embolium. 30. Hemeliteral membrane. Several stink bugs and shield bugs are considered agricultural pests, because they can grow into large populations that feed on crops. Damage. Pentatomidae. Temporal range. Nezera viridula. Scientific classification domain. Eukaryota kingdom. Animalia phylum. Arthropoda class. Insecta order. Hemiptera suborder. Heteroptera infraorder. Pentatomomorpha superfamily. Pentatomoidea family. Pentatomidae. Leech, 1815. Subfamilies. See text. Description. Economics. Production, and they are resistant to many pesticides. They are a threat to cotton, corn, sorghum, soybeans, native and ornamental trees, shrubs, vines, weeds, and many cultivated crops. 11. In Mexico, some species of stink bugs are called jumal, chinche de monte, zotlinilli, or chumal e.g. Adessa mexicana. They are most often eaten in the states of Morelos and Guerrero. The flavor is sometimes said to resemble cinnamon, or sometimes a bitter medicinal flavor. Jumals may be used for making sauces or as a taco filling. 12. Since its recent arrival in the U.S., the brown marmorated stink bug population has grown significantly. As of October 2014, brown marmorated stink bugs can be found in 41 out of 50 states within the U.S. 13. In 2016, New Zealand's MPI put out an alert to prevent this invasive species from entering via imported cargo. Reduviidae. The Reduviidae is a large cosmopolitan family of the suborder Heteroptera of the order Hemiptera, true bugs. Among the Hemiptera and together with the Nabidae, almost all species are terrestrial ambush predators. Most other predatory Hemiptera are aquatic. The main examples of non-predatory Reduviidae are some blood-sucking ectoparasites in the subfamily Triatominae, with a few species from South America noted for their ability to transmit Chagas disease. Though spectacular exceptions are known, most members of the family are fairly easily recognizable. They have a relatively narrow neck, sturdy build, and formidable curved proboscis, sometimes called a rostrum. Large specimens should be handled with caution, if at all, because they sometimes defend themselves with a very painful stab from the proboscis. A zealous nymph from the southeastern United States. Adult insects range from roughly 12 to 36 millimeters, 0.47 to 1.42 in, depending on the species. 5. They most commonly have an elongated head with a distinct narrowed neck, long legs, and prominent, segmented, tubular mouthparts, most commonly called the proboscis, but some authors use the term rostrum. Most species are bright in color with hues of brown, black, red, or orange. Nymph, found in Nepal. The most distinctive feature of the family is that the tip of the proboscis fits into a ridged groove in the prosternum, where it can be used to produce sound by stridulation. 6. Sound is made by rasping Reduviidae. Temporal range. Assassin bug, Rhinocorus aracundus, with bee prey. Scientific classification domain. Eukaryota kingdom. Animalia phylum. Arthropoda class. Insecta order. Hemiptera suborder. Heteroptera infraorder. Semicomorpha. Family. Reduviidae. The proboscis against ridges in this groove are stridulatum, stridulatory organ. These sounds are often used to discourage predators. When harassed, many species can deliver a painful stab with the proboscis, injecting venom or digestive juices. The effects can be intensely painful and the injection from some species may be medically significant. Orange assassin bug, Geminatus australis, feeding on a beetle. A reduvid camouflaged with debris, Australia. Rhinocorus, predatory flower assassin bug from South Africa, may bite when carelessly handled. Painful aftereffects often persist for months. 7. Predatory Reduviidae use the long rostrum to inject a lethal saliva that liquefies the insides of the prey, which are then sucked out. The saliva contains enzymes that digest the tissues they swallow. This process is generally referred to as extraoral digestion. 8. The saliva is commonly effective at killing prey substantially larger than the bug itself. The legs of some Reduviidae have areas covered in tiny hairs that aid in holding onto their prey while they feed. Others, members of the subfamily Phymatinae in particular, have forelegs that resemble those of the praying mantis, and they catch and hold their prey in a similar way to mantises. As nymphs, some species cover and camouflage themselves effectively with debris or the remains of dead prey insects. The nymphal instars of the species Acanthaspis pedestris present one good example of this behavior where they occur in Tamil Nadu in India. Another well-known species is Reduvius personatus, known as the masked hunter because of its habit of camouflaging itself with dust. Some species tend to feed on pests such as cockroaches or bedbugs and are accordingly popular in regions where people regard their hunting as beneficial. Reduvius personatus is an example, and some people breed them as pets and for pest control. Some assassin bug subfamilies are adapted to hunting certain types of prey. For example, the Ectrichidionae eat millipedes, and Some assassin bug subfamilies are adapted to hunting certain types of prey. For example, the Ectrichidae eat millipedes, and feather-legged bugs eat ants. A spectacular example of the latter is Tolocnemus lemur, an Australian species in which the adult attacks and eats ants, but the nymph waits until the ant bites the feathery tufts on its hind legs, upon which it whips around and pierces the ant's head with its proboscis, and proceeds to feed. 9. Some research on the nature of the venom from certain Reduviidae is underway. The saliva of Rhinocorus marginatus showed some insecticidal activity in vitro, in tests on Lepidopteran pests. The effects included reduction of food consumption, assimilation, and use. Its anti-aggregation factors also affected the aggregation and mobility of hemocytes. 10. The saliva of the species Rhinocorus marginatus fab. And Catamerus brevipennis serval have been studied because of their activity against human pathogenic gram-negative bacteria, including strains of Escherichia coli, Pseudomonas. And Catamerus brevipennis serval have been studied because of their activity against human pathogenic gram-negative bacteria, including strains of Escherichia coli, Pseudomonas aeruginosa, Proteus vulgaris, and Salmonella typhimurium, and the gram-positive Streptococcus pyogenes. Some species are bloodsuckers rather than predators, and they are accordingly far less welcome to humans. The blood-feeding habit is thought to have evolved from species that lived in the nests of mammalian hosts. Several species are known to live among bat roosts, including Cavernicola pilosa, Triatoma dimidiata, and Erytyrus mucronitus. Triatoma species and other members of the subfamily Triatominae, such as Rodnius species, Panstrongylus megastus, and Paratriatoma hirsuta, are known as kissing bugs, because they tend to bite sleeping humans in the soft tissue around the lips and eyes. A more serious problem than their bites is the fact that several of these Haematophagus Central and South American species transmit the potentially fatal trypanosomal Chagas disease, sometimes called American trypanosomiasis. This results in the death of 12,000 people a year. 11. The Emicinae live among spider webs. Phylogeny and evolutionary history. Aerolis cristatus egg mass. Current taxonomy is based on morphological characteristics. The first cladistic analysis based on molecular data, mitochondrial and nuclear ribosomal DNA, was published in 2009 and called into question the monophyly of some current groups, such as the Emicinae. 12. Reduviidae are monophyletic, and the phymetine complex is consistently recovered as the sister to the higher Reduviidae, which includes 90% of the Reduvide species diversity. 13. Reduviidae is suggested to have split from other semicomorphs during the Jurassic, based on molecular clock. 14. The oldest fossils of the family are from the late Cretaceous, Cenomanian, aged Burmese amber, represented by nymphs. 15, and the genus Paleotriatoma, belonging to the subfamily Triatominae. Psocoptera. Psocoptera, Psocopter, are a paraphyletic group of insects that are commonly known as booklice, barklice or barkflies. 1. The name Psocoptera has been replaced with Psocodia in recent literature, with the inclusion of the former order Phiraptera into Psocodia, as part of the suborder Troctomorpha. 2, 3, 4, 5. These insects first appeared in the Permian period, 295 to 248 million years ago. They are often regarded as the most primitive of the hemipteroids. 6. Their name originates from the Greek word sokos, meaning gnawed, or rubbed, and ptera, meaning wings. 7. There are more than 5,500 species in 41 families in 3 suborders. Many of these species have only been described in the early 21st century. 8. They range in size from 1 to 10 millimeters. 1. The species known as booklice receive their common name because they are commonly found amongst old books. They feed upon the paste used in binding. The barklice are found on trees, feeding on algae and lichen. Psocids are small, scavenging insects with a relatively generalized body plan. They feed primarily on fungi, algae, lichen, and organic detritus in nature, but are also known to feed on starch-based household items like grains, wallpaper glue, and book bindings. 9. They have chewing mandibles, and the central lobe of the maxilla is modified into a slender rod. This rod is used to brace the insect while it scrapes up detritus with its mandibles. They also have a swollen forehead, large compound eyes, and 3 ocelli. Their bodies are soft with a segmented abdomen. 10. Some species can spin silk from glands in their mouth. 11. They may festoon large sections of trunk and branches in dense swathes of silk. 12. Some psocids have small ovipositors that are up to 1.5 times as long as the hindwings, and all 4 wings have a relatively simple venation pattern, with few cross veins. The wings, if present, are held tent-like over the body. 10. The legs are slender and adapted for jumping, rather than gripping, as in the true lice. The abdomen has 9 segments, and no cerci. 11. There is often considerable variation in the appearance of individuals within the same species. Many have no wings or ovipositors, and may have a different shape to the thorax. Other, more subtle, variations are also known, such as changes to the development of the setae. The anatomy and biology. Significance of such changes is uncertain, but their function appears to be different from similar variations in, for example, aphids. Like aphids, however, many psocids are parthenogenic, and the presence of males may even vary between different races of the same species. 11. Psocids lay their eggs in minute crevices or on foliage, although a few species are known to be viviparous. The young are born as miniature, wingless versions of the adult. These nymphs typically molt 6 times before reaching full adulthood. The total lifespan of a socid is rarely more than a few months. 11. Book lice range from approximately 1 to 2 millimeters. 1. Some species are wingless and they are easily mistaken for bedbug nymphs and vice versa. Book louse eggs take 2 to 4 weeks to hatch and can reach adulthood approximately 2 months later. Adult book lice can live for 6 months. Besides damaging books, they also sometimes infest food storage areas, where they feed on dry, starchy materials. Although some socids feed on starchy household products, the majority of socids are woodland insects with little to no contact with humans, therefore they are of little economic importance. They are scavengers and do not bite humans. 13. Socids can affect the ecosystems in which they reside. Many socids can affect decomposition by feeding on detritus, especially in environments with lower densities of predaceous microarthropods that may eat socids. Many socids can affect decomposition by feeding on detritus, especially in environments with lower densities of predaceous microarthropods that may eat socids. 14. The nymph of a socid species, Psocoptera mamulus, is the first known wood-boring Psocopteran. These Psocoptera. Temporal range, late Jurassic, recent. Ecmepteryx hagani. Unidentified bark louse. Scientific classification domain, Eukaryota. Kingdom, Animalia phylum, Arthropoda class, Insecta unranked Paraneoptera unranked Psocoptera. Nymphs make their own burrows in woody material, rather than inhabiting vacated, existing burrows. This boring activity can create habitats that other organisms may use. 15. Some species of socids, such as Liposcelis bostricophylla, are common pests of stored products. 16. Socids, among other arthropods, have been studied to develop new pest control techniques in food manufacturing. One study found that modified atmospheres during packing (MAP) helped to control the reoccurrence of pests during the manufacturing process and prevented further infestation in the final products that go to consumers. 17. In the 2000s, morphological and molecular phylogenetic evidence has shown that the parasitic lice Phyraphthora evolved from within the Psocopteran suborder Troctomorpha, thus making Psocoptera paraphyletic with respect to Phyraphthora. 18. 19. In modern systematics, Psocoptera and Phyraphthora are therefore treated together in the order Psocodia. Louse. Louse plural. Lice is a common name for any member of the clade Phyraphthora, which contains nearly 5,000 species of wingless parasitic insects. Phyraphthora has variously been recognized as an order, infraorder, or a parvorder, as a result of developments in phylogenetic research. 1, 2, 3. Lice are obligate parasites, living externally on warm-blooded hosts which include every species of bird and mammal, except for monotremes, pangolins, and bats. Lice are vectors of diseases such as typhus. Chewing lice live among the hairs or feathers of their host and feed on skin and debris, whereas sucking lice pierce the host's skin and feed on blood and other secretions. They usually spend their whole life on a single host, cementing their eggs, called nits, to hairs or feathers. The eggs hatch into nymphs, which molt 3 times before becoming fully grown, a process that takes about 4 weeks. Genetic evidence indicates that lice are a highly modified lineage of Psocoptera, now called Psocodia, commonly known as book lice, bark lice or bark flies. The oldest known fossil lice are from the Cretaceous. 4. Humans host 2 species of louse. The head louse and the body louse are subspecies of Pediculus humanus, and the pubic louse, Thyrus pubis. The body louse has the smallest genome of any known insect. It has been used as a model organism and has been the subject of much research. Lice were ubiquitous in human society until at least the Middle Ages. They appear in folktales, songs such as The Kilkenny Louse House, and novels such as James Joyce's Finnegan's Wake. They commonly feature in the psychiatric disorder delusional parasitosis. A louse was one of the early subjects of microscopy, appearing in Robert Hooke's 1667 book, Micrographia. Morphology and diversity. Lice are divided into 2 groups: sucking lice, which obtain their nourishment from feeding on the sebaceous secretions and body fluids of their host, and chewing lice, which are scavengers, feeding on skin, fragments of feathers or hair, and debris found on the host's body. Many lice are specific to a single species of host and have co-evolved with it. In some cases, they live on only a particular part of the body. Some animals are known to host up to 15 different species, although 1 to 3 is typical for mammals, and 2 to 6 for birds. Lice generally cannot survive for long if removed from their host. 5. If their host dies, lice can opportunistically use phoresis to hitch a ride on a fly and attempt to find a new host. 6. Sucking lice range in length from 0.5 to 5 millimeters, 1/64 to 13/64 in. They have narrow heads and oval, flattened bodies. They have no ocelli, and their compound eyes are reduced in size or absent. Their antennae are short with 3 to 5 segments, and their mouthparts, which are retractable into their head, are adapted for piercing and sucking. Lice are divided into 2 groups: sucking lice, which obtain their nourishment from feeding on the sebaceous secretions and body fluids of their host, and chewing lice, which are scavengers, feeding on skin, fragments of feathers or hair, and debris found on the host's body. Many lice are specific to a single species of host and have co-evolved with it. In some cases, they live on only a particular part of the body. Some animals are known to host up to 15 different species, although 1 to 3 is typical for mammals, and 2 to 6 for birds. Lice generally cannot survive for long if removed from their host. 5. If their host dies, lice can opportunistically use phoresis to hitch a ride on a fly and attempt to find a new host. 6. Sucking lice range in length from 0.5 to 5 mm, 1/64 to 13/64 in. They have narrow heads and oval, flattened bodies. They have no ocelli, and their compound eyes are reduced in size or absent. Their antennae are short with 3 to 5 segments, and their mouthparts, which are retractable into their head, are adapted for piercing and sucking. 7. There is a sebareal pump at the start of the gut. It is powered by muscles attached to the inside of the cuticle of the head. The mouthparts consist of a proboscis which is toothed, and a set of stylets arranged in a cylinder inside the proboscis, containing a salivary canal ventrally and a food canal dorsally. 8. The thoracic segments are fused, the abdominal segments are separate, and there is a single large claw at the tip of each of the 6 legs. 7. Chewing lice are also flattened and can be slightly larger than sucking lice, ranging in length from 0.5 to 6 mm, 1/64 to 15/64 in. They are similar to sucking lice in form, but the head is wider than the thorax, and all species have compound eyes. There are no ocelli and the mouthparts are adapted for chewing. The antennae have 3 to 5 segments and are slender in the suborder Ischnicera, but club-shaped in the suborder Amblycera. The legs are short and robust, and terminated by 1 or 2 claws. Some species of chewing lice house symbiotic bacteria in bacteriocytes in their bodies. These may assist in digestion because if the insect is deprived of them, it will die. Lice are usually cryptically colored to match the fur or feathers of the host. 7. 9. A louse's color varies from pale beige to dark gray. However, if feeding on blood, it may become considerably darker. Female lice are usually more common than males, and some species are parthenogenetic, with young developing from unfertilized eggs. A louse's egg is Phiraptera. Temporal range. Light micrograph of Pharenholzia pinnata. Scientific classification domain: Eukaryota kingdom, Animalia phylum, Arthropoda class, Insecta order, Psocodia suborder, Troctomorpha infraorder, Nanopsicete parvorter, Phiraptera. Haeckel, 1896. Clades 1. Commonly called a nit. Many lice attach their eggs to their host's hair with specialized saliva. The saliva hair bond is very difficult to sever without specialized products. Lice inhabiting birds, however, may simply leave their eggs in parts of the body inaccessible to preening, such as the interior of feather shafts. Living louse eggs tend to be pale whitish, whereas dead louse eggs are yellower. 5. Lice are exopterygotes, being born as miniature versions of the adult, known as nymphs. The young molt 3 times before reaching the final adult form, usually within a month after hatching. 5. Humans host 3 different kinds of lice: head lice, body lice, and pubic lice. Head lice and body lice are subspecies of Pediculus humanus, and pubic lice are a separate species, Thyrus pubis. Lice infestations can be controlled with lice combs, and medicated shampoos or washes. 10. The average number of lice per host tends to be higher in large-bodied bird species than in small ones. 11. Lice have an aggregated distribution across bird individuals, i.e. most lice live on a few birds, while most birds are relatively free of lice. This pattern is more pronounced in territorial than in colonial, more social, bird species. 12. Host organisms that dive underwater to feed on aquatic prey harbor fewer taxa of lice. 13. 14. Bird taxa that are capable of exerting stronger antiparasitic defense, such as stronger T-cell immune response or larger uropygial glands, harbor more taxa of Amblyceran lice than others. 15. 16. Reductions in the size of host populations may cause a long-lasting reduction of louse taxonomic richness. 17. For example, birds introduced into New Zealand host fewer species of lice there than in Europe. 15. 16. Reductions in the size of host populations may cause a long-lasting reduction of louse taxonomic richness. 17. For example, birds introduced into New Zealand host fewer species of lice there than in Europe. 18. 19. Louse sex ratios are more balanced in more social hosts and more female-biased in less social hosts, presumably due to the stronger isolation among louse subpopulations, living on separate birds, in the latter case. 20. The extinction of a species results in the extinction of its host-specific lice. Host switching is a random event that would seem very rarely likely to be successful, but speciation has occurred over evolutionary timescales, so it must be successfully accomplished sometimes. 17. Lice may reduce host life expectancy if the infestation is heavy. 21. But most seem to have little effect on their host. The habit of dust bathing in domestic hens is probably an attempt by the birds to rid themselves of lice. 7. Lice may transmit microbial diseases and helminth parasites. 22. But most individuals spend their whole life cycle on a single host and are only able to transfer to a new host opportunistically. 7. Ischniceran lice may reduce the thermoregulation effect of the plumage. Amblycera. Thus heavily infested birds lose more heat than others. 23. Lice infestation is a disadvantage in the context of sexual rivalry. 24. 25. Evolution. Phiraptera lice are members of Psocodia, formerly Psocoptera, the order that contains book lice, bark lice and bark flies. Within Psocodia, lice are within the suborder Troctomorpha, and most closely related to the family Lipocilidae. 26. The oldest confirmed fossil louse is Archimonopon myanmarensis, an Amblyceran from the Cretaceous amber from Myanmar. 4. Another early representative of the group is a bird louse, Megamenopon rasnitzeni, from Eckfelder Mar, Germany, which dates to the Eocene, around 44 million years ago. 27. Saurodex versansky from the early Cretaceous, Aptian, Zaza Formation of Buryatia, Russia, has also been suggested to be a louse, but this is tentative. 28. Placental mammal lice had a single common ancestor that lived on Aphrotheria, with this arising from host switching from an ancient avian host. 29. Cladogram showing the position of Phyraphthora within Psocodia. 1. Psocodia. Classification. Phyraphthora is clearly a monophyletic grouping, united as the members are by a number of derived features including their parasitism on warm-blooded vertebrates and the combination of their metathoracic ganglia with their abdominal ganglia to form a single ventral nerve junction. 30. The order has traditionally been divided into two suborders, the sucking lice Anopleura, and the chewing lice Melophaga. However, subsequent classification suggests that the Melophaga are paraphyletic and 4 suborders were then recognized. Upon finding that Phyraphthora was nested within Psocoptera, Phyraphthora, in 2021 de Moya et al. Proposed reducing the rank of Phyraphthora to infraorder, and the 4 suborders to parvorder. 1. The secanges were accepted by Psocodia species phyle and others, with the exception of placing Theraptera under the infraorder Nonopsicetae, as a parvorder, with the 4 subgroups listed above. These classifications are likely to change in the future as a result of ongoing phylogenetic research. 2. 3. Nearly 5,000 species of louse have been identified, about 4,000 being parasitic on birds and 800 on mammals. Lice are present on every continent in all the habitats that their host animals occupy. 31. They are found even in the Antarctic, where penguins carry 15 species of lice in the genera Ostrogonoides and Nisiotinus. 32. The oldest known record of the group is Megamenopon rasnitzeni from the Eocene of Germany, but it is essentially a modern form, belonging to Amblycera, so the group as a whole likely has an origin in the Mesozoic. 27. Riccinus. Bombicilli, an Amblyceran louse from a Bohemian waxwing. Trinotin. Anserinum, an Amblyceran louse from a mute swan. Bovicola limbata, an Ischnoceran louse from goats. The species is sexually dimorphic, with the male smaller than the female. Phylogeny. Lice have been the subject of significant DNA research in the 2000s that led to discoveries on human evolution. The 3 species of sucking lice that parasitize human beings belong to 2 genera, Pediculus and Thyris, head lice Pediculus humanus capitis, body lice Pediculus humanus humanus, and pubic lice Thyris pubis. Human head and body lice, genus Pediculus, share a common ancestor with chimpanzee lice, while pubic lice, genus Thyris, share a common ancestor with gorilla lice. Using phylogenetic and cophylogenetic analysis, Reed et al. Hypothesized that Pediculus and Thyris are sister taxa and monophyletic. 33. In other words, the 2 genera descended from the same common ancestor. The age of divergence between Pediculus and its common ancestor is estimated to be 6 to 7 million years ago, which matches the age predicted by chimpanzee hominidivergence. 33. Because parasites rely on their hosts, host-parasite cospeciation events are likely. Genetic evidence suggests that human ancestors acquired pubic lice from gorillas approximately 3 to 4 million years ago. 33. Unlike the genus Pediculus, the divergence in Thyris does not match the age of host divergence that likely occurred 7 million years ago. Reed et al. Propose a Thyris species host switch around 3 to 4 million years ago. While it is difficult to determine if a parasite host switch occurred in evolutionary history, this explanation is the most parsimonious, containing the fewest evolutionary changes. 33. Additionally, the DNA differences between head lice and body lice provide corroborating evidence that humans used clothing between 80,000 and 170,000 years ago, before leaving Africa. 34. Human head and body lice occupy distinct ecological zones. Head lice live and feed on the scalp, while body lice live on clothing and feed on the body. Because body lice require clothing to survive, the divergence of head and body lice from their common ancestor provides an estimate of the date of introduction of clothing in human evolutionary history. 34. 35. The mitochondrial genome of the human species of the body louse Pediculus humanus humanus, the head louse Pediculus humanus capitis, and the pubic louse Thyris pubis fragmented into a number of minichromosomes, at least 7 million years ago. 36. Analysis of mitochondrial DNA in human body and hair lice reveals that greater genetic diversity existed in African than in non-African lice. 35. 37. Human lice can also shed light on human migratory patterns in prehistory. The dominating theory of anthropologists regarding human migration is the out of Africa hypothesis. Genetic diversity accumulates over time, and mutations occur at a relatively constant rate. Because there is more genetic diversity in African lice, the lice and their human hosts must have existed in Africa before anywhere else. 37. In human culture. In social history. Drawing of a louse. Clinging to a human hair. Robert Hooke. Micrographia, 1667. Lice have been intimately associated with human society throughout history. In the Middle Ages, they were essentially ubiquitous. At the death of Thomas Becket, Archbishop of Canterbury in 1170, it was recorded that the vermin boiled over like water in a simmering cauldron, and the onlookers burst into alternate weeping and laughing. 38. The clergy often saw lice and other parasites as a constant reminder of human frailty and weakness. Monks and nuns would purposely ignore grooming themselves and suffer from infestations to express their religious devotion. 39. A medieval treatment for lice was an ointment made from pork grease, incense, lead, and aloe. 40. Robert Hooke's 1667 book, Micrographia, or some physiological descriptions of minute bodies made by magnifying glasses with observations and inquiries thereupon, illustrated a human louse, drawn as seen down an early microscope. 41. Margaret Cavendish's satirical The Description of a New World, called The Blazing World, 1668, has, lice men, as, mathematicians, investigating nature by trying to weigh the air like the real scientist Robert Boyle. 42. 43. In 1935, the Harvard medical researcher Hans Simser wrote the book Rats, Lice and History, alleging that both body and head lice transmit typhus between humans. 44. Despite this, the modern view is that only the body louse can transmit the disease. 45. Details showing delousing from Jan Siberek's painting Cour de Ferme, Farmyard, 1662. Soldiers in the trenches of the First World War suffered severely from lice, and the typhus they carried. The Germans boasted that they had lice under effective control, but themselves suffered badly from lice in the Second World War on the Eastern Front, especially in the Battle of Stalingrad. Delousing became a euphemism for the extermination of Jews in concentration camps such as Auschwitz under the Nazi regime. 46. In the psychiatric disorder delusional parasitosis, patients express a persistent irrational fear of animals such as lice and mites, imagining that they are continually infested and complaining of itching, with an unshakable false belief that live organisms are present in the skin. 47. In science, the human body louse Pediculus humanus has, 2010, the smallest insect genome known. 48. This louse can transmit certain diseases while the human head louse P.H. capitis, to which it is closely related, cannot. With their simple life history and small genomes, the pair make ideal model organisms to study the molecular mechanisms behind the transmission of pathogens and vector competence. 49. In literature and folklore, Mother Louse, a notorious alewife in Oxford during the mid-18th century, shown with 3 lice as a coat of arms. Image by David Logan. 50-51. James Joyce's 1939 book Finnegan's Wake has the character Shem the penman infested with foxtrotting fleas, the Leobed lice. Bats in his belfry. 52. Clifford E. Trafser's A Chimehuavi Song. The resilience of a southern Paiute tribe retells the story of Sinawavi Coyote's love for Poawavi louse. Her eggs are sealed in a basket woven by her mother, who gives it to Coyote, instructing him not to open it before he reaches home. Hearing voices coming from it, however, Coyote opens the basket and the people, the world's first human beings, pour out of it in all directions. 53. The Irish songwriter John Lyons B. 1934 wrote the popular 54 song The Kilkenny Louse House. The song contains the lines, "Well, we went up the stairs and we put out the light, sure in less than 5 minutes, I had to show fight. For the fleas and the bugs they collected to march, and over me stomach they formed a great arch." It has been recorded by Christy Purcell, 1952, Mary Delaney on From Puck to Appleby, 2003, and the Dubliners on Double Dubliners, 1972, among others. 54-55. Robert Burns dedicated a poem to the louse, inspired by witnessing one on a lady's bonnet in church. "Ye ugly, creepin', blasted wanner, detested, shunned, by saint and sinner, how dare ye set your fit upon her, say fine lady. Guy somewhere else, and seek your dinner on some poor body." John Milton in Paradise Lost mentioned the biblical plague of lice visited upon Pharaoh. "Frogs, lice, and flies must all his palace fill with loathed intrusion, and filled all the land." John Ray recorded a Scottish proverb, "Gie a beggar a bed and he'll repay you with a louse." In Shakespeare's Troilus and Cressida, Thersites compares Menelaus, brother of Agamemnon, to a louse. "Ask me not what I would be, if I were not Thersites, for I care not to be the louse of a Lazar, so I were not Menelaus." 56. Woodlouse. The name woodlouse or woodlouse is given to crustaceans of the suborder Onicidia within the order Isopoda, unrelated to lice. The Oxford English Dictionary's earliest citation of this usage is from 1611. 50. Earwig. Earwigs make up the insect order Dermaptera. With about 2,000 species, 1 in 12 families, they are one of the smaller insect orders. Earwigs have characteristic cerci, a pair of forceps-like pincers on their abdomen, and Earwigs have characteristic cerci, a pair of forceps-like pincers on their abdomen, and membranous wings folded underneath short, rarely used forewings, hence the scientific order name, skin wings. Some groups are tiny parasites on mammals and lack the typical pincers. Earwigs are found on all continents except Antarctica. Earwigs are mostly nocturnal and often hide in small, moist crevices during the day, and are active at night, feeding on a wide variety of insects and plants. Damage to foliage, flowers, and various crops is commonly blamed on earwigs, especially the common earwig Forficula auricularia. Earwigs have 5 molts in the year before they become adults. Many earwig species display maternal care, which is uncommon among insects. Female earwigs may care for their eggs, the ones that do will continue to watch over nymphs until their second molt. As the nymphs molt, sexual dimorphism such as differences in pincer shapes begins to show. Extant Dermaptera belong to the suborder Neodermaptera, which first appeared during the Cretaceous. Some earwig specimen fossils are placed with extinct suborders Archidermaptera or Eodermaptera, the former dating to the late Triassic and the latter to the Middle Jurassic. Dermaptera belongs to the major grouping Polyneoptera, and are amongst the earliest diverging members of the group, alongside angel insects Zoroptera and stoneflies Plecoptera, but the exact relationship among the three groups is uncertain. Etymology. Earwig diagram with wings extended and closed. The scientific name for the order, Dermaptera, is Greek in origin, stemming from the words derma, meaning skin, and pteron plural ptera, meaning wing. It was coined by Charles de Geer in 1773. The common term, earwig, is derived from the Old English ear, which means ear, and witka, which means insect, or literally, beetle. 2 entomologists suggest that the origin of the name is a reference to the appearance of the hindwings, which are unique and distinctive among insects, and resemble a human ear when unfolded. 3-4 The name is more popularly thought to be related to the old wives' tale that earwigs burrowed into the brains of humans through the ear and laid their eggs there. 5 Earwigs are not known to purposefully climb into ear canals, but there has been at least one anecdotal report of earwigs being found in the ear. 6. An earwig from the Western Ghats. Earwigs are abundant and can be found throughout the Americas and Eurasia. The common earwig was introduced into North America in 1907 from Europe, but tends to be more common in the southern and southwestern parts of the United States. 739 The only native species of earwig found in the north of the United States is the spine-tailed earwig, Doru aculeatum, 8 found as far north as Canada, where it hides in the leaf axils of emerging plants in southern Ontario wetlands. However, other families can be found in North America, including Forficulae, Doru and Forficula being found there, Spongiformidae, Anisolibitidae, and Labradoridae. 9. Earwig. Temporal range, late Triassic to recent. Female common earwig, Forficula auricularia. Scientific classification domain, Eukaryota kingdom, Animalia phylum, Arthropoda class, Insecta infraclass, Neoptera cohort, Polyneoptera order, Dermaptera. Few earwigs survive winter outdoors in cold climates. They can be found in tight crevices in woodland, fields and gardens. 739 10 out of about 1,800 species, about 25 occur in North America, 45 in Europe including 7 in Great Britain, and 60 in Australia. 11. Morphology. Male earwig, external morphology. Click on image for a larger view. Most earwigs are flattened, which allows them to fit inside tight crevices, such as underbark, with an elongated body generally 7 to 50 mm, 1.4-2 in long. 11. The largest extant species is the Australian giant earwig, Titanolabus colossi, which is approximately 50 mm, 2 in long, 12-10 while the possibly extinct, declared extinct in 2014, St. Helena earwig, Labradora herculeana, reached 78 mm, 31/16 in. 13. Earwigs are characterized by the cerci, or the pair of forceps-like pincers on their abdomen. Male earwigs generally have more curved pincers than females. These pincers are used to capture prey, defend themselves and fold their wings under the short tegmina. 14. The antennae are thread-like with at least 10 segments. 738 to 739. Males in the 6 families Cartielidae, Pygidicranidae, Diplatidae, Apochidae, Anisolibitidae and Labradoridae have paired penises, while the males in the remaining groups have a single penis. Both penises are symmetrical in Pygidicranidae and Diplatidae, but in Cartielidae the left one is strongly reduced. Apochidae, Anisolibitidae, and Labradoridae have an asymmetrical pair, with left and right one pointing on opposite directions when not in use. The females have just a single genital opening, so only one of the paired penises is ever used during copulation. 15, 16, 17. Earwig with right wing open. The forewings are short oblong leathery plates used to cover the hindwings like the elytra of a beetle, rather than ear. The females have just a. Both penises are symmetrical in pitch. 738 to. Males in the 6 families Cartielidae, Pygidicranidae, Diplatidae, Apochidae, Anisolibitidae and Labradoridae have paired penises, while the males in the remaining groups have a single penis. Both penises are symmetrical in Pygidicranidae and Diplatidae, but in Cartielidae the left one is strongly reduced. Apochidae, Anisolibitidae, and Labradoridae have an asymmetrical pair, with left and right one pointing on opposite directions when not in use. The females have just a single genital opening, so only one of the paired penises is ever used during copulation. 15, 16, 17. Earwig with right wing open. The forewings are short oblong leathery plates used to cover the hindwings like the elytra of a beetle, rather than to fly. Most species have short and leather-like forewings with very thin hindwings, though species in the former suborders Ericksonina and Hemimarina, epizoic species, sometimes considered as ectoparasites 18, 19, are wingless and blind with filiform segmented cerci. Today these are both included merely as families in the suborder Neodermaptera. 11, 20, 21. The hindwing is a very thin membrane that expands like a fan, radiating from one point folded under the forewing. Even though most earwigs have wings and are capable of flight, they are rarely seen in flight. These wings are unique in venation and in the pattern of folding that requires the use of the cerci. 22. Internal. The neuroendocrine system is typical of insects. There is a brain, a subesophageal ganglion, 3 thoracic ganglia, and 6 abdominal ganglia. Strong neuron connections connect the neurohemal corpora cardiaca to the brain and frontal ganglion, where the closely related median corpus alluteum produces juvenile hormone 3 in close proximity to the neurohemal dorsal aorta. The digestive system of earwigs is like all other insects, consisting of a fore, mid, and hindgut, but earwigs lack gastric cc, which are specialized for digestion in many species of insect. Long, slender, excretory, Malpighian tubules can be found between the junction of the mid and hindgut. 23. The reproductive system of females consists of paired ovaries, lateral oviducts, spermatheca, and a genital chamber. The lateral ducts are where the eggs leave the body, while the spermatheca is where sperm is stored. Unlike other insects, the gonopore, or genital opening, is behind the seventh abdominal segment. The ovaries are primitive in that they are polytrophic. The nurse cells and oocytes alternate along the length of the ovariole. In some species, these long ovarioles branch off the lateral duct, while in others, short ovarioles appear around the duct. 23. Life cycle and reproduction. The life cycle and development of a male earwig from egg to each instar. Earwigs are hemimetabolous, meaning they undergo incomplete metamorphosis, developing through a series of 4 to 6 molts. The developmental stages between molts are called instars. Earwigs live for about a year from hatching. They start mating in the autumn, and can be found together in the autumn and winter. The male and female will live in a chamber in debris, crevices, or soil 2.5 centimeters, 1 inch deep. 739 After mating, the sperm may remain in the female for months before the eggs are fertilized. From midwinter to early spring, the male will leave, or be driven out by the female. Afterward, the female will begin to lay 20 to 80 pearly white eggs in 2 days. Some earwigs, those parasitic in the suborders Ericksonina and Hemimarina, are viviparous, give birth to live young. They would be fed by a sort of placenta. 739 to 740 20. When first laid, the eggs are white or cream-colored and oval-shaped, but right before hatching they become kidney-shaped and brown. 24. Each egg is approximately 1 millimeter, 1/32 in tall and 0.8 millimeters, 1/32 in wide. 21. Earwigs are among the few non-social insect species that show maternal care. The mother pays close attention to the needs of her eggs, such as warmth and protection. 739 to 740 20. She faithfully defends the eggs from predators, not leaving them even to eat unless the clutch goes bad. 740. She also continuously cleans the eggs to protect them from fungi. Studies have found that the urge to clean the eggs persists for only a few days after they are removed, and does not return even if the eggs are replaced. However, when the eggs were continuously replaced after hatching, the mother continued to clean the new eggs for up to 3 months. 740. Studies have also shown that the mother does not immediately recognize her own eggs. After laying them, she gathers them together, and studies have found mothers to pick up small egg-shaped wax balls or stones by accident. Eventually, the imposter eggs were rejected for not having the proper scent. 740. Female earwig in her nest, with eggs. Female earwig in her nest with newly hatched young. The eggs hatch in about 7 days. The mother may assist the nymphs in hatching. When the nymphs hatch, they eat the egg casing and continue to live with the mother. The nymphs look similar to their parents, only smaller, and will nest under their mother, and she will continue to protect them until their second molt. The nymphs feed on food regurgitated by the mother, 25, and on their own molts. If the mother dies before the nymphs are ready to leave, the nymphs may eat her. 740 26. After 5 to 6 instars, the nymphs will molt into adults. The male's forceps will become curved, while the female's forceps remain straight. They will also develop their natural color, which can be anything from a light brown, as in the tawny earwig, to a dark black, as in the ring-legged earwig. In species of winged earwigs, the wings will start to develop at this time. The forewings of an earwig are sclerotized to serve as protection for the membranous hindwings. Behavior. Most earwigs are nocturnal and inhabit small crevices, living in small amounts of debris, in various forms such as bark and fallen logs. Species have been found to be blind and living in caves, or cavernicolis, reported to be found on the island of Hawaii and in South Africa. Food typically consists of a wide array of living and dead plant and animal matter. 23. For protection from predators, the species Dorutaniatum of earwigs can squirt foul-smelling yellow liquid in the form of jets from scent glands on the dorsal side of the 3rd and 4th abdominal segment. It aims the discharges by revolving the abdomen, a maneuver that enables it simultaneously to use its pincers in defense. 27. Under exceptional circumstances, earwigs form swarms and can take over significant areas of a district. In August 1755 they appeared in vast numbers near Stroud, Gloucestershire, UK, especially in the cracks and crevices of old wooden buildings, so that they dropped out oftentimes in such multitudes as to literally cover the floor. 28. A similar plague occurred in 2006, in and around a woodland cabin near the Blue Ridge Mountains of the eastern United States. It persisted through winter and lasted at least 2 years. 29. Ecology. Earwigs are mostly scavengers, but some are omnivorous or predatory. 739 to 740. The abdomen of the earwig is flexible and muscular. It is capable of maneuvering as well as opening and closing the forceps. The forceps are used for a variety of purposes. In some species, the forceps have been observed in use for holding prey, and in copulation. The forceps tend to be more curved in males than in females. 30. A male of Forficula auricularia feeding on flowers. The common earwig is an omnivore, eating plants and ripe fruit as well as actively hunting arthropods. To a large extent, this species is also a scavenger, feeding on decaying plant and animal matter if given the chance. Observed prey include largely plant lice, but also large insects such as bluebottle flies and woolly aphids. 10 plants that they feed on typically include clover, dahlias, zinnias, butterfly bush, hollyhock, lettuce, cauliflower, strawberry, blackberry, sunflowers, celery, peaches, plums, grapes, potatoes, roses, seedling beans and beets, and tender grass shoots and roots. They have also been known to eat corn silk, damaging the crop. 31. Species of the suborders Eryxinina and Hemimarina are generally considered epizoic, or living on the outside of other animals, mainly mammals. In the Eryxinina, family Eryxinidae, species of the genus Eryxinia are normally found deep in the skin folds and galler pouch of Malaysian hairless bulldog bats, Cheiromys torquatus, apparently feeding on bats' body or glandular secretions. On the other hand, species in the genus Xenuria, still of the suborder Eryxinina, are believed to feed on the guano and possibly the guanophilous arthropods in the bat's roost, where it has been found. Hemimarina includes Ariamaris found in the nest of long-tailed pouch rats, Bemies, and Hemimaris which are found on giant Chrystomes rats. 1932. Earwigs are generally nocturnal, and typically hide in small, dark, and often moist areas in the daytime. They can usually be seen on household walls and ceilings. Interaction with earwigs at this time results in a defensive free fall to the ground followed by a scramble to a nearby cleft or crevice. 30. During the summer they can be found around damp areas such as near sinks and in bathrooms. Earwigs tend to gather in shady cracks or openings or anywhere that they can remain concealed during daylight. Picnic tables, compost and waste bins, patios, lawn furniture, window frames, or anything with minute spaces, even artichoke blossoms, can potentially harbor them. 33. Predators and parasites. Earwigs are regularly preyed upon by birds, and like many other insect species they are prey for insectivorous mammals, amphibians, lizards, centipedes, assassin bugs, and spiders. 34. European. Phasmatodea. 34. Their primary insect predators are parasitic species. Naturalists have observed bats preying upon earwigs. 34. Their primary insect predators are parasitic species of Tachinidae, or tachnid flies, whose larvae are endoparasites. One species of tachnid fly, Triarthria setapenis, has been demonstrated to be successful as a biological control of earwigs for almost a century. 35-36. Another tachnid fly and parasite of earwigs, Ocytata pallips, has shown promise as a biological control agent as well. 37. The common predatory wasp, the yellow jacket, Vespula maculifrons, preys upon earwigs when abundant. 38. A small species of roundworm, Myrmis nigrescens, is known to occasionally parasitize earwigs that have consumed roundworm eggs with plant matter. 39. At least 26 species of parasitic fungus from the order Labolbaniales have been found on earwigs. 40. The eggs and nymphs are also cannibalized by other earwigs. 41. A species of pteroglyphoid mite, Histiostoma polypori, Histiostomatidae, astigmata, are observed on common earwigs, sometimes in great densities. 42. However, this mite feeds on earwig cadavers and not its live earwig transportation. 43. Hippolyte Lucas observed scarlet acarine mites on European earwigs. 44. Fossil of Beloderma arquata from the Middle Jurassic of China, a member of the extinct Dermaptera. The fossil record of the Dermaptera starts in the late Triassic to early Jurassic period about. Evolution. 208 million years ago in England and Australia, and comprises about 70 specimens in the extinct suborder Archidermaptera. Some of the traits believed by neontologists to belong to modern earwigs are not found in the earliest fossils, but adults had 5-segmented tarsi, the final segment of the leg, well-developed ovipositors, veined tegmina, forewings, and long segmented cerci. In fact, the pincers would not have been curled or used as they are now. 14. The theorized stem group of the Dermaptera are the Protelytroptera, which are similar to modern Blatodia cockroaches, with shell-like forewings and the large, unequal anal fan, are known from the Permian of North America, Europe and Australia. No fossils from the Triassic, during which Dermaptera would have evolved from Protelytroptera, have been found. 47. Amongst the most frequently suggested order of insects to be the closest relatives of Dermaptera is Notoptera, theorized by Giles in 1963. However, other arguments have been made by other authors linking them to Phasmatodea, Embioptera, Plecoptera, and Dictyoptera. 11. A 2012 mitochondrial DNA study suggested that this order is the sister to stoneflies of the order Plecoptera. 48. A 2018 phylogenetic analysis found that their closest living relatives were angel insects of the order Zoroptera, with very high support. 49. Archidermaptera is believed to be sister to the remaining earwig groups, the extinct Eodermaptera and the living suborder Neodermaptera equals former suborders Forficulina, Hemimarina, and Eryxinina. The extinct suborders have tarsi with 5 segments, unlike the 3 found in Neodermaptera, as well as unsegmented cerci. No fossil Hemimeridae and Eryxinidae are known. 50. Species in Hemimeridae were at one time in their own order, Diploglossata, Dermodermaptera, or Hemimarina. Like most other epizoic species, there is no fossil record, but they are probably no older than late Tertiary. 14. Some evidence of early evolutionary history is the structure of the antennal heart, a separate circulatory organ consisting of 2 ampullae, or vesicles, 51, that are attached to the frontal cuticle near the bases of the antennae. 52. These features have not been found in other insects. An independent organ exists for each antenna, consisting of an ampulla, attached to the frontal cuticle medial to the antenna base and forming a thin-walled sac with a valved ostium on its ventral side. They pump blood by elastic connective tissue, rather than muscle. Phylogeny. A female of the common earwig in a threat pose. Dermaptera is relatively small compared to the other orders of insecta, with only about 2,000 species, 3 suborders and 15 families, including the extinct suborders Archidermaptera and Eodermaptera with their extinct families Protodiploidea.